Well, I saw a drawing of Geraldine. She's from the 19th century, and she was looking up at the Virgin Mary and praying, being quite penitent, because Geraldine was up to all kinds of things, I reckon. And she reminded me of the Repentant Magdalene, those pictures that are hundreds of years old. As a minister's daughter, I started thinking about uh, being apologetic for the things you think about and not being apologetic. And so I was turning 50, and I thought it was the time to be unrepentant about that.
So it is one of those things. It's funny in life where you see certain things and it kind of underlines a sentence that might be in your head somewhere.
Exactly, yes.
And then in your case gets turned into a song.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it happens usually. People know that when they're talking to me anywhere they are in the world, you might end up in a song, but you might not know which one you're in.
And that's part of the joy.
I hope so.
It just so the whole theme of the album is based all around that, is it?
The whole theme, I would say to you, is stories, relationships, learning about ages. I was fascinated when people would talk to me, whether they're teenagers or in their 20s, about aging. And so that really started to open my eyes, how they have their own issues. One teenager said to me, "Can you believe I'm going to have to figure out," this is a British kid, "I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life." And I'm only 17. And I started listening to this lad, and I started thinking, well, I hadn't thought about it like that. And then I was in New York, and the 20-somethings were saying to me, "I've just gotten out of university. I owe a fortune, and I can't get a job in what I majored in." So I was listening to the pressures of different ages, and that became a song called 16 Shades of Blue.
Lots of our listeners will have turned 50, and it's sort of interesting hearing the story of someone who's a teenager worrying about what's to come next, but then also in direct contrast to that, you saying turning 50, feeling unrepentant. Actually, so what is the joy? What are the joys of turning 50?
I'm grabbing it with both hands today, Laura. I think this time last year at 49, I wasn't as frisky about it, but
That's a great word.
I've had some guidance from all kinds of women, all ages, about it. One being Ray Smith, who was the designer on The Light Princess and the designer of Warhorse that I worked with.
This is National Theatre.
National Theatre, yeah. And she pulled me aside the day before I turned 50, and she said, "Look, there are a couple ways to approach this. The one I recommend is you need to gather all the things you've created, and you need to see yourself as a shape, as a piece of architecture. And that is what you do the day before you turn 50. And then from 50 on, for the next 50 years, you're going to create another piece of architecture. And that's how you need to see your life, as a creative force." And that, believe it or not, that started to turn me around.
I think that's a great way of looking at it. Can I ask about whether there are any shocking parts in the album? Because I know on some of your previous albums there have been maybe pictures that might have surprised people. One with you and a piglet on the front of it. Is there anything shocking in this one?
I wouldn't say no. I don't think there's anything shocking on this album. Having a teenage daughter, it puts shocking in perspective. I guess this record is about relationships as well. There's some things that are said. There's nothing that is censored. I mean, I don't have a parental guidance rating, because I didn't feel that was necessary. I felt that there's some things on the record where people will look, and hopefully there'll be some tears and there'll be some giggles. So there's that going on. I think I've been hanging around the Brits for so long that sometimes some of the things that you might think would be offensive, because of the way they're said, become more of a love song, although it's a heartbreak.
Well, there is a difference in directness, I think, isn't it, in about how you go about saying something. Certainly a difference I noticed between people who are British and American people, a certain style and way of saying things.
There is. There absolutely is. And I guess I'm not trying to be British. I have no illusions there, and so I guess I find a way of communicating that the Brits can understand and that the Americans can understand, and hopefully the Germans seem to get the record, so that's good.
Well, where are you based these days?
Well, I have a home in Florida. That's my home. Mark, my husband, he has a place in Cornwall. That's where the recording studio is.
What a place to go to.
Yeah, he reckoned that we would be away from big cities in the world, and there are no street lights. It's really in the middle of nowhere, but then the studio is like the TARDIS, so when you walk in, it becomes a whole world that's hiding behind this barn door.